All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be chasing the dragon for week 7, heading into week 8. So this is going to be the reactive waiver wire show. So first and foremost, we should probably talk a little bit about. I don't want to talk about the Monday night games that just got off the air. So Jameis Winston. So this is a lot of if, buts, and maybes. And since this is going to be the reactive waiver wire show, I don't want to talk about this after waivers because I think you should probably be knife fighting for some of this before waivers happen. In this case, we have Deshaun Watson going down with that Achilles. One thing to talk about with this is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He gets his middle finger injured, went in for x-rays, and it's negative. So the reason why I bring this up is because one of the top waiver wire ads this week would probably be Cedric Tillman, and that's because he was the beneficiary of Amari Cooper leaving. Well, one of the beneficiaries of this. So he does 12 for 8 for 81 in this game. So again, 12 targets, nothing to stick at. And then the other guy in all this is David Njoku, 82% snaps, 14 for 10 for 76 and touchdowns. So he might be available on your waiver wire, especially after last week, 7 for 5 for 31, and then he missed all that time with that knee and ankle stuff going on. He may be available. I don't know how much I would really want to be chasing Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore in this one, like 7 targets. Jerry Jeudy only had 5. Not a lot to go with it. I don't think there was a lot of error. But the reason why I bring this up is if you can get any of these guys for a bag of chips right now, that's probably where I would be going. Maybe you can get Jameis Winston. And the reason why I say maybe is I wouldn't be surprised that the Browns are in full tank mode. Jameis Winston was quote-unquote inactive for the game. He was the third-string emergency quarterback. The only way he could get in was if the top 2 quarterbacks get injured, and that's exactly what happened. So I would not be surprised that with DTR, that injury coming back negative, and if the Browns are trying to tank and either roll out DTR for the rest of the season and ship Jameis Winston, they may have to roll out Jameis Winston, which means the offense is going to get really fun from a fantasy perspective. And that means like you may have a top 10 quarterback who throws like 3 interceptions and fumbles the ball twice, but he could throw like 5 touchdowns on any given week. And he's got like a little bit of, run around like with a chicken with his head cut off type of nimbly-bimbly when it comes down to that. Now, again, I don't know how much I would trust this, but because you're getting that quarterback change right now, and as you can see in the game, only 15% snaps for Jameis Winston. DTR comes in and does 45% snaps. Doesn't necessarily mean he's good. He threw 2 picks in this one. But like those targets between Deshaun Watson and DTR and Jameis Winston, like 12 targets for Cedric Tillman, David Njoku 14. Some of those are going to stay relatively consistent in this offense going forward. And then the other guys like Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, probably deeper league guys like Cedric Tillman, David Njoku. Yeah, like if you can get them for a bag of chips with the if, buts, and maybes of what's going to go on with the Browns going forward with this one. So moving on to some of the other guys, like this is not a particularly good week when it comes to chasing the dragon. Russell Wilson, first game back, he throws 2 touchdown passes. His rushing touchdown was a quarterback sneak. I'm not interested, especially because there's no buys this week. I don't know how consistent this is going to necessarily be. The Nimbly Bimbly, he may be able to stay somewhat consistent with the passing touchdowns. And he has a little bit of the ability to run around. He could fall in the end zone. I just don't generally know if like I want to be chasing Russell Wilson in this offense. It's going to be a generally conservative offense. You're looking at the Giants, which could be a conservative game script, and then a bye week. Then you're going to be rolling them out probably against the Redskins at that point. Like if you're going to be chasing that because you're in a deep enough league or like 2 quarterback league, something like that. Marcus Mariota with the caveat that if Jaden Daniels misses some time. So he's another one who's going to have a little bit nimbly-bimbly, 11 for 34. This offenses look really good right now, so I probably would be knife fighting for Marcus Mariota with the expectation that Jaden Daniels is going to miss maybe a week or something like that sometime, than trying to go chase Russell Wilson right now. And again, like maybe Jameis Winston. These are all guys that probably are a little bit more after waivers than I would be like knife fighting. And then if Tua was dropped and you need that guy, like again, like these guys are not going to win you leagues because they don't have the nimbly-bimbly. But Tua could be playing in week 8 if you need that type of thing. Now, running backs are really limited this week. This is not a running back week. This is not a quarterback week. Tyler Goodson, he's going to pop up. Only 48% snaps. I think Trey Sermon had 2 red zone carries. He had 1. He tugged on his 14 for 51. and Jonathan Taylor may be back this week. I did look this up ahead of time. In Yahoo leagues, it's about 50% rostered Alexander Madison. Like, this offense is not going to be good. 70% snaps, 23 for 92 in this game, and then another 3 for 3 for 31. Like, yeah, if you're in that, like, running back 2, I need somebody, like, just volume based. I don't know how consistent this is going to be going forward. And that reminds me, I didn't even look up Dylan Labe in this game. Tyrone Tracy, if he's dropped, or if he was dropped because Devin Singletary looks like he's going to be back because you're in like a not competitive league, or if someone's not paying attention to what actually went on in this game, 67% snaps with Tyrone Trey or with Devin Singletary comes back. So like yeah, if he's available, like he's still the lead back by a pretty significant margin. And then Jalen Warren this game, and I haven't really found the snap shares or not the snap shares. The overall usage, I saw that Najee fell into the end zone late. He still out-snapped Najee. So between the hamstring and then the knee, now he's back 51% snaps, 12 for 44, another 3 for 2 for 15. And he did have red zone work in this game. So, like, he's getting back up there into that, like, low-end RB2 range, if you're going to be chasing these guys, depending on, like, if these guys are available in your league. Now, the other fun stuff to be getting into when it comes to, knife fighting with your chasing the dragon. So, Brandon Ayuk goes down with that MCL, ACL that he did. The two guys to be looking at, first and foremost, like, vacated opportunities tend to go to running backs first, and you're looking at CMC tracking right now to come back for week 10. The second thing you'd be looking at is that they go after running backs to tight ends. George Kittle is going to get an uptick. Now, I don't know how much Debo is going to get an uptick because he's kind of used differently in the offense. More of a designed opportunity guy. Not that he's a bad wide receiver, but he's not going to go out there and like beat man coverage in the same type of way that like Brandon Ayuk was. And then the two other guys like Juwan Jennings, 6'3", 212. He was injured last week with a hip. Like, after his week 3 performance, 85% snaps, 12 for 11, 175, and 3 touchdowns in this game. Like, would not be surprising. He's just going to slot into that role in some way, shape, or form. The other one is Ricky Pearsall, 76% snaps, 5 for 3 for 21. He can win in one-on-one, man-to-man type situations. He can also do that. So at this point, this is like the game theory of the channel. Like, who would I be chasing? Well, probably the cheaper guy that I can get out to, because I think in general the 49ers are, they're going to run a lot of 2 wide receivers and either like 2 running backs or 2 tight ends. That's just how the offense functions. And to think that you're going to be able to get like some type of wide receiver 3 out of either Jennings or Pearsall, well, I should say like a wide receiver 2 or above, they're going to probably be in that wide receiver 3 range unless they're going to get like 90% of the snaps. And that's what like Debo and Ayuk tend to do, or would do in the offense. So like if you're trying to guess right and say that I'm going to get the guy that's going to be the complement to Debo and George Kittle, I don't necessarily think there's going to be a guy with Pearsall coming back. If it's going to be a guy, it may be Juwan Jennings. He may be limited in a way that like Ricky Pearsall is not. It doesn't particularly interest me. Like, you're probably going to get a guy that's going to be capped out within the offense. You're buying someone that may end up being a wide receiver 2. I don't think you're going to get a wide receiver one out of it. Now, when we move over to the Buccaneers, and I'm going to have a lot more to say about this in after waivers. So I did see that Mike Evans went out with a hamstring. And then Chris Godwin looks like he's done for the year with a dislocated ankle. So right now, chasing the Dragon would be Jalen McMillan, the 3rd-round draft pick out of Washington. I think there's a couple other guys to be chasing when it comes to the Buccaneers. But like right now, if you're going to be spending it, would be Jalen McMillan from a wide receiver standpoint. Now, Keon Coleman, absolutely not. If he's available, like I would just say probably someone else's problem. You're looking at Dalton Kincaid. He had 6 targets. You have Amari Cooper coming back. He only did coming into the offense, he did like 50% snaps in this game. Khalil Shakur still had like 7 targets in this game. So down here, and I did the stats today, the 75% snaps, 7 for 4 for 125. I imagine that the snaps likely will go down and the targets will go down. Now, his 2 big plays in this game, I think it has it listed like 57-yarder and 44-yarder. Like, one was busted coverage, and the other one was a slant broken tackle yak. So, like, do the math on that. What is that? About 91 yards or 101 yards, something like that, of the offense that I don't think is necessarily going to be repeatable. Maybe the slant broken tackle is going to happen a few times more in the season. Like, how much you're going to be buying that you're going to get another, like, busted coverage in this one, like, going forward. Like, probably not going to be interested. I would be interested in, like, Jennings, Pearsall, and McMillan before Keon Coleman if he's available. Romeo Doubs, I've been talking about this since the offseason. 83% snaps, 10 for 8, 94. I think he had a red zone target to go along with Dontavian Wicks. I think those are the two guys that had red zone targets in the game. And again, he's just going to be an ugly wide receiver too, attached to a good offense. And this is, like when you look at the Packers and the Lions and the Ravens, good football, bad fantasy. Like this is what's going on. Like you're going to get some 40-degree days, you're going to get some sub 40-degree days, and you're going to get some spike weeks. So if you want to be rolling Romeo Doubs out there as like a wide receiver too, knowing that like he's going to break your heart sometimes, like I would be doing that. If you're expecting like league winner, I don't necessarily think that's going to occur with the competition for targets. Now, Rashad Bateman, if you're new to the channel, this is one of the user comments came up about Rashad Bateman versus like Zay Flowers in this game. So Bateman 4 for 4 for 121 and a touchdown. So again, it's pick your poison. If they get into the right script and he is going to be the boom bust guy, and then Zay Flowers is going to be more of like the opportunity guy, and you get the right week and it's Rashad Bateman's week, then he should be in that like dart throw range with like your Alec Pierce's. I don't know how much sustainable this is going to be because guess what, the Ravens don't care about your fantasy lineup when it comes down to these guys. So probably should be a guy that I need to plug in on any given week more so than like I'm going to chase that expectation going forward in my lineup. Especially without there's nobody on buys this week that I'd be plugging him in. Now, a couple other added bonus ones. Troy Franklin, 51% snap, 6 for 5 for 50 in this game. I don't have his air yards right next to me, but like they were okay. And then remember that this was a blowout by the Broncos. Like everybody's snap share was down in this one because they were blowing them out so bad. So I don't necessarily think that the downtick in 51% snaps is something I'd be worried about. The overall like usage 6 for 5 for 50 and some air yards. The other one, Mason Tipton, that I'd be throwing out there along with like Cedric Wilson and Bub Means. Mason Tipton, this is the interesting one, the 4-3 guy out of Yale that we've been tracking the snap share going up. So now the jump to 83% snaps. Rashid Shaheed's not going to come back. It just becomes an issue is if he's the number 3 behind Olave and then someone else like Means or Wilson, or if he's going to be the number 2 and take over that vacated Rashid Shaheed road. So like at that point, like if you can get him for a bag of chips to find out that he's going to stay relatively consistent, like 83% snaps, 9 for 6, and that's to go along with like 90 air yards that he had in this game. A couple other ones, and this is chasing the dragon. So this is the reactionary show. So like it's not just what guys put up. Like again, I've talked about this before. Like think more than one step ahead. So DK goes down with a grade 1 MCL sprain, and there's no guarantee he's going to miss time, but it's an MCL sprain and it's a grade 1. So now you got to be tracking those vacated opportunities. Now, generally, I would just say like the main beneficiary of this is going to be Kenneth Walker, running backs first. Second, we're going to talk about Noah Fant here in a second. Third, it's Jake Bobo, and there's a couple reasons why, because Jake Bobo is a similar clone. Not that anybody is like a clone to DK Metcalf, but he's similar, 6'4", 207. He's their red zone guy, their blocking type wide receiver that they bring in there. And then you can see the snaps jump 48% snaps with DK going out in this game. So again, if I'm going to be tracking that guy, like probably in that wide receiver 3 range, he's going to have a particular role in the offense because of that size that's going to be different than like Tyler Lockett and JSN overall. All right, so moving on to tight ends, Jonnu Smith, absolutely not with your roster because you're tracking on Tua coming back. And then you already know like wide receiver 1, Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 2 is going to be Jalen Waddle. Wide receiver 3 right now looks like it's going to be Malik Washington. At that point, you're trying to guess that like, and I would say like wide receiver 3 is going to be actually Devin Achane at this point. Like you're trying to guess that in some way, shape, or form with all this change that's going to go on in the offense. 49% snaps, 7 for 7 for 96, and a touchdown is going to stay somewhat consistent against the defense. Like the Indianapolis Colts is one of the worst defenses. I don't care. I wouldn't be chasing that. Like this is one of those things that in fantasy that will bite me because I won't touch him with your roster, and then you'll go out and you'll pick him up, and then you'll roll him this week and he'll have another spike week. And I'll go, this doesn't make sense to me. Jatavion Sanders for the Panthers this was horrible. Like I don't know how much you want to chase any of this. There was 18 combined pass attempts for the Panthers because they were so bad. But 74% snaps, 6 for 6 for 61. If you want to be chasing that. Hunter Henry in this game, their wide receivers were horrible. And this was another like blowout. 87% snaps, 9 for 8 for 92. I didn't see the snaps on this. There's always going to be a possibility that Hunter Henry is going to be the number 1 in the offense on any given week. it just becomes an issue of how much I want to be chasing that. And then next 2 weeks, Jets and Tennessee. Tennessee's pretty good. The Jets are pretty good. Like the Bears are pretty good. I don't know how much I'd be rolling. I'll talk about this with Drake, man. I don't know how much I'd be rolling out any of the Patriots until you get to about like week 11, and then they have a pretty good stretch between the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Colts before their bye week. Noah Fant again. Vacated targets, maybe with DK going down, Kenneth Walker, and then you're looking at Noah Fant probably being the biggest beneficiary of this, and then the last 2 weeks, 6 for 6 for 63, and then 53% snaps down, but then this was a blowout in favor of the Seahawks, and then he does 4 for 4 for 65. So, yeah, I can see the uptick happening with him. Again, and I called this ahead of time, so when you're right, you're right. I get to pat myself on the back because I'm wrong so often. In this case, with Hayden Hurst being out, consolidation of targets, Will Disley, he leads everybody 11 for 8 for 81 in this game. I don't know how necessarily consistent that I would necessarily want to be tracking this with Hayden Hurst being out and then the game flow overall with the Chargers offense. I was kind of thinking that we were going to get a spike week out of Ladd McConkey. That didn't happen. It was Will Disley spike week. I don't know if that's necessarily going to end up being consistent down the line, but like again, you can predict some of these things. If Hayden Hurst continues to be out, those targets are going to consolidate to somebody. And then the other thing with Mike Evans going out with that hamstring and Chris Godwin going out with that ankle right now, like Cade Otton, like this could theoretically be league winner Cade Otton when it comes down to that. Who knows how long Mike Evans is going to be missing, and then Chris Godwin's done for the year. So right now you may be looking at the number one option when it comes to not a running back attached to the Buccaneers. Now, in general, again, vacant opportunities tend to go to running backs. Rashad White had 2 touchdown catches tonight. Like, he would be the main beneficiary. This would spike Rashad White's value, probably back up to like a fringe RB1 because there's no one to throw the football to outside of Cade Otton right now. And then after that, like, the second guy that would get those vacated opportunities would be Cade Otton, and he flirts with about 100% snaps, like 90 to 100% snaps. So I would not be surprising going forward, like 10 for 8 for 100 tonight versus Baltimore, and what kind of ended up being a shootout. He would maybe be like the top waiver wire ad. I'd have to look at this, probably more so than going after like Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings, because I don't know if you can necessarily guess which one of these two guys that is going to be the guy in the offense. And then with vacated opportunities tending to go to running backs and tight ends next, like you're not going to get like one-to-one Jalen McMillan stepping in and being the guy for either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin at that point. And then let me see some of the other ones that are up here. Probably not going to be chasing any of these guys. Jalen Warren's going to be capped as an RB2. Like Tyrone Tracy, if he's available, he's still got like league winner on him going forward. And then Alexander Madison, like ugly RB2 if he's available in your league. Tyler Goodson's going to be a 1 week rental if you get another week with Jonathan Taylor out. And then I don't really like any of the quarterbacks that should be available on the wire. I would probably be prioritizing like Marcus Mariota because of the theoretical, like they have a lot of good options in the offense. The offense has looked good. He's a veteran. He's got some membly. That would be the guy if you need the streamer, especially if you're the Jaden Daniels and are just be plugging him in. That is less, of course, like all the tea leaves go in the right direction, and we get the Browns led by Jameis Winston, and then all the toys become very, very interesting. Probably Njoku may have a little bit more interest to me. I don't know how available he's going to be in a lot of leagues out there. But to go out and see if you can buy him for a bag of chips, just basically how he's performed. If you're in like a less competitive league, Cedric Tillman, probably a lot more interest in him if you need a wide receiver over guessing right on Jennings and Pearsall. I could definitely see that these two guys are going to be like 60-70% snaps and eating into each other versus like Kittle and Debo, and then eventually CMC in the offense. And again, if this offense looks like it did with Joe Flacco at the end of the year, like it's gonna get really fun from a fantasy perspective. So anyway, that's about what I got from chasing the dragon this week, and I'll get after waivers done sometime tomorrow and get it out.